Good morning, and thanks for joining us on The Real Story. I'm Emma Wulfhorst. I messed up my own name there. And here this morning with us is Bristol STEM teacher Carolyn Kielma.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I was so worried about getting your last name right, I messed up my own.
No.
Well, you're Connecticut's Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
So exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you very
First off. So when you were told that you were Connecticut's Teacher of the Year, what went through your mind? Tell me how you felt.
It was very exciting, of course, but a little overwhelming. I was like, oh, now what? There was a lot of now what steps, but everybody's been amazing and helping me and guiding me through it. So, but the initial, I couldn't believe the recognition was so exciting, and I couldn't wait to tell my students.
Absolutely. Yeah. So not only were you recognized as Teacher of the Year here in Connecticut, right, but you were also in the top 5 best teachers for the whole country. So with that accomplishment, you took a trip down to Capitol Hill. Tell me a little bit about how that went.
Yeah, that was wild. We actually took the train. My husband and son were able to come with me too. So we took the train out of New Haven, and then we enjoyed a really nice train ride, 6 hours about, but it was relaxing and saved us a lot of money. And then when we got there, it was just, every minute was busy. I thought it would be a little bit more vacation-y, but we were on Capitol Hill. We met with legislators, senators. We went to the White House and had our photo with Dr. Jill and Joe Biden. And then we ended up having a gala at the end of the week. We went to the Smithsonian. We did so many things and had so many opportunities to meet with people like Google and talk to us about how they're changing education, what they're doing in the classroom. And it was a lot, but exciting and fun, but I slept great every night.
Yeah, really a lot packed in there. And you mentioned you were able to talk to a lot of people in positions of power and policy. Right. You were talking about solutions for better education, fewer burnt out teachers. And that included, as you said, Dr. Jill Biden, who's a teacher herself, as well as President Joe Biden. What were those conversations like between the three of you? What sort of things did you all talk about? And other teachers from across the country, you said you felt heard and appreciated after those conversations. Why is that?
I think it's just wonderful that our First Lady is an educator. She's currently still teaching, which is wild to me to know that someone out there has the First Lady as their professor and teacher. I'm like, wow. So she is, it's great to have her. And then also Secretary of Education Cardona is from Meriden. So we have him as homegrown here for Connecticut, very important for us, and it's amazing to feel heard. And also, Johanna Hayes is a Connecticut Teacher of the Year 2016, and so she's in a place of power too. So it just feels like we're being heard and seen in Connecticut as for education, and that's really important. And when they did sit down and talk to us, Secretary Cardona and Dr. Jill Biden together sat with us, all 56 Teachers of the Year in the territories. We talked about what can we do, what can we change, what do we need to listen to, how can we help teachers, what resources do we need. It was just so valuable to feel heard and that change was coming. That was exciting.
Yeah, a lot of educators from Connecticut now down in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. So I want to bring this back to a local lens. You were chosen, obviously, to represent teachers here in Connecticut.
Right.
And when you're not having conversations with national leaders now, you are in the classroom yourself and you're doing science experiments. So let's start with some of the positives. What's working in our schools, in your opinion?
I think it's great to see that we are starting to take more importance on mental health in the classroom and also for teachers and staff, but mostly for students. We're having a major problem with the mental health crisis in our country, and it's nice to see that now we're starting to realize it and funds are being allocated in the right way to start to help. It's a long road getting there, and our students and teachers and staff need a lot of supports, and so that's really important, and I think that it's great to see that that's starting to happen. My district, Bristol district, I think we're doing a really great job of it, but I know a lot of other districts are suffering with not enough staff to help with all the needs that our students have. We can't have some school districts have 250 students per caseload for one mental health clinician or one support staff, and that's way too many. And so I just think that that's a good thing that's happening. We're starting to recognize it, and we're on our way, but we really need help there. And so,
well, and speaking of recognizing and trying to get some of that help, we're in our legislative session right now. There's just a couple weeks left, but so much of this session's conversation has been about education, about support for teachers, mental health for students, and between the shortage and the burnout cycle, there have been a lot of solutions from local boards of education to the Capitol chambers. Do you think there's anything missing from these conversations?
Not that I see yet, but I am still new to this position, right? So I'm just coming in, and I'm working with Commissioner Russell Tucker. We're starting to do things together, but that's so new for me. And I am not a policy girl, like I'm a science girl. So for me, that's a big step, and I'm learning as I go. And my goal is really to be an advocate for my students and do what I know that they need. And so I'm working towards that. It's tricky, because again, science girl, but I'm learning all the needs that are there, and I can't wait to start the work. So I'm excited for it. But right now, there's nothing that I think is specific, except for that, again, more mental health and more guidance counselors and clinicians at our state. But that's happening. So.
Well, and you're still, going through this yourself every single day, and you're probably the closest and most honest, perspective, we could see as a teacher yourself. So what does the state legislature need to do, in your opinion? What are those solutions, or what would you like to see done?
Again, more resources that we can, and I mean, it's such, everybody says that, it's like it's an easy answer, but what does that actually mean? Right. And again, I don't actually know. Like, I wish I had the answers, and I'm working to get those answers, but that's tricky. We need more people, we need more staff. Teachers can't do everything, and I think that's one of the reasons there is that burnout, is that we're expected to be not just a teacher. We're expected to be so much more, and we're not trained to be. I'm trained to be a teacher. I have a master's degree in education, but it's not a master's degree in mental health, and sustainability for those students, and how to get them to where they need to be in order to actually learn. So I think that's the best answer I can give you, is that we need more help, and that's the best way to support teachers, is to give us support too.
Do you feel like that lack of resources and a lot of the issues you've brought up so far were starting to be prevalent prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, or do you think that really spurred? I know you said you're expected to be more than a teacher. I've heard a lot of educators say that issue really came to a head during COVID-19.
I completely agree. And I think it was coming, but this just really jettisoned it forward. I mean, the pandemic really opened even my eyes. I was like, whoa, I had no idea some of the conditions my students were living in, and just even food security, like knowing that being out of school, they didn't have a stable food supply. And so those kinds of things are paramount, making sure, and that really, again, jettisoned forward after COVID. It was like, holy cow, we really have to do something about this. How did we not know it was so bad before? And then, of course, COVID, then the strains of all that, and students losing family members, and so much during that time. Now we're like, oh, now we really need to move it. Yeah.
So let's shift a little bit to curriculum. There's a lot of talk about that, a lot of conversations around curriculum right now. Connecticut, especially with science, which is what you teach, has always been a bit ahead when it comes to things like climate change, and as well as prioritizing sex education, reworking history lessons. But there have been a lot of national movements and local legislative proposals in other states around taking things like this out of the classroom and removing these topics. A lot of teachers feeling like that's getting a little bit political and politicizing classrooms. How do you feel about that?
I feel very lucky to teach where I am, and especially when we did go to Washington and meet with all the other teachers, I was stunned to hear some of the things that teachers can't teach, or some of the things that are happening in their classroom. And I am just really grateful to be in an area that respects my decision, and that I'm a professional who knows how to teach. It's really easy to say what teachers should be doing, but none of those people have been in the classroom. So it's a whole different animal when you're standing in front of students and you see what they need and what you can provide for them. And having someone tell me that I can't teach this book or this topic, I mean, I was teasing my cohort of 56 teachers. I said, we have a big, huge text thread going, and I sent pictures of, I had these little fossil dinosaur earrings, and I'm like, teaching evolution today. And some of them were like, you're teaching evolution? And I'm like, I'm a science teacher. I teach biology. Yeah, of course I am. And they're like, I couldn't wear those earrings. I could get fired for wearing those earrings. So, and I'm just like, well, I'm not really sure the validity of that, but it's just amazing that I get to teach science the way that it's science, you know, and I don't have to worry about that kind of political landscape in my science classroom as much.
Well, are you worried at all that it could still, you know, creep into Connecticut?
Of course, and I'm worried for my colleagues because I want them to be able to teach what they know is right for their students and teach to the students that they have in front of them. And I'm really worried about it, yeah, but I feel safe where we are in Connecticut. I feel that my voice is heard, and I do have autonomy in my classroom, and that's huge. So I think I'll be okay, but here, yeah, so I'm not going anywhere else.
Yeah. I know you said you're not a policy girl, you're a science girl, but when it comes to policy solutions, there is a lot to be done, and you know, it sounds like seeds are being planted already, but when it comes to parents, students, and all of us, you were talking about representation. What do you wish those who aren't educators knew about teaching? That
it's hard. It's extremely exhausting and difficult, and it has to be, you have to teach the students in front of you. So I think that there is not one right way to teach, but I think a lot of people believe that there is, and I think you have to have flexibility and trust in the teachers that they know what they're doing, that they are professionals, and that they are tailoring their lessons based on who they have in front of them. That's really important. I don't teach every single class the same way. I can't. I have different humans in front of me that I need to make sure I reach that student when I'm talking about this topic, and I make sure I connect to that kid's life who is different from my other class students' lives, right? So it's a difficult job because of that, but it's so rewarding, and I love it, and I wouldn't do anything else. But I think others need to know that we know what we're doing. We've been in this a long time. We know what's best for students, and we're trying to do what's best for students. We don't have I don't have time for ulterior motives. I got to get that curriculum, and I got to teach these kids.
Well, Carolyn, thank you so much again. We've already reached our time, but you're a wonderful representative for teachers here in Connecticut, and we really appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much, Emma.